Welcome to Unpacking Real Estate, where your host, Lisa Pinder here. We have got a new friend in town, and her name is Miss Jennifer Jones. She is with the Lakeside Table. So if you've ever been on my YouTube page and you saw the long drawn out video, forget that video. We're going to do something new, and we're going to talk about more fun stuff. And of course, Jennifer has to tell us about the Virgin story. So let me tell you, I've been in the business going on 10 years, and I have been working with Miss Jen for probably about 6 or 7 at this point. Like I just found her and she was just so fun and she gives to the community. So I was like, I think I like her. We got to work together. So that was she was one of the people that I, attached to. And she has just been my ultimate go-to with all the different things that we need when it comes to title. So let's start the party with what is title? Because people always, of course, look at us like, okay, well, why are we gonna give these people this money? What do they do? Besides us being, they refer to real estate agents as professional door openers. I dare ask what they think of title people.
I like to, well, as a title company, we put all of the pieces together. I'm the last stop on the real estate train. I'm the one that you sign your loan documents and actually become a homeowner.
Yes.
That's what title, our ultimate job role is, and it's ultimately to protect the buyer's property rights.
Definitely. So I'll tell you this, Jennifer is, it's all about teamwork. So between myself, which as the agent, Jennifer is the title rep, and then the lender, we all have to partner together. We all have to communicate to convey everything that is needed on both sides of the table so everyone can get to their desired destination, whether you're buying a house or selling a house. Having her and me being able to jump on the phone with her, make sure things are going smoothly. There's no documents, there's no liens, all of the things is what Jennifer brings to the table. And it's been so many instances, not just in closing, where you've been able to come in and save the day. So it's like there's a large picture of what she can touch and do and and help us through. So let's talk about it. It's my favorite thing to talk about because it's so funny when she tells this story. It cracks me up. So she's like, wait a minute, is it are you a virgin or is it your first time?
So we're referring to the Maryland recordation tax.
Yes.
It's a tax that the state of Maryland charges the transaction. It's a 0.5%. Usually it's 1/4% to the seller, 1/4% to the buyer. Is split typically 50-50 unless you're a realtor and you've agreed on something else. The 1/4% to the buyer, they will not be charged that if they are a Maryland first-time home buyer.
Right.
And the way that we decipher a first-time home buyer for the recordation tax is just like our Virginity. It's one and done. You use it once and you can't get it back.
Can't get it back. But, the thing is, I think a lot of the confusion, and we've had this conversation before, a lot of the confusion comes in when people are using different loan programs and they're like, oh, you can be a first-time home buyer after 3 years of not owning a home, and then they come and sit down at a table with Ms. Jennifer and they say, oh, I'm a first-time home buyer, and hope to get the credit when at some point they've owned a home in this state. So it kind of excludes you from it, but it gets kind of confusing and the water is murky because if it's a loan program, there is the potential that if you haven't owned a home in 3 years, some of the loan programs allow you to designate yourself as a first-time home buyer. But in this case, the state of Maryland will not be giving you that 1/4% to have as a savings credit. And it's only a credit. Calm down. You're not getting a check. It's a credit. You'll see in real estate, purchasing a home, selling a home, you'll hear the word credit a lot. And that just means that a person is just designating, moving money around. You officially will not get a check.
No.
Because the question was asked to me a couple weeks ago. Hey, we got this $7,500 credit. when's the check coming? And I'm like, there's no check. The check is within the documents and the money has been moved to allocate and cover things that you would have
Mhm.
had to come out of your pocket for. So it kind of breaks it down in that way.
Mhm.
So that's one thing that I'm a big fan that Jennifer can break down for people at the table. But the first time one and done story is always a favorite of mine because it's like that's the best way to explain. You're not getting that credit again.
No.
No, it's not
No.
happening. Don't do it. Don't
Mm-mm.
ask about it. It's not happening.
We're not talking about your kids when they live at home with you and they're under the age of 18. Not that. If you owned a home and you were 18 years old and bought a house and then you didn't buy or own a house until 20 years later, you still are not a Maryland first-time home buyer if
Yes.
it was your primary residence.
Right.
So one and done, just like our virginity. You don't get it back.
Yeah. Another thing that we've been seeing a lot of, and I don't know if it's because of COVID or what have you, but we have a lot of people that are saying, okay, I'm done, I'm moving, I'm retiring, I'm packing up. And they don't realize that once they change addresses and then they go to sell the house that they left in Maryland, that there's this big tax that a lot of people don't account for.
The Maryland withholding tax. And if you are not a Maryland resident, the title company will charge a withholding tax, and it is 8% for an individual.
Yes.
8% of your proceeds of what you've already paid, your commissions, the transfer and recordation taxes, any and all fees,
Yes.
if you are not a Maryland resident.
Yes.
That is the Maryland withholding tax. And if you change your driver's license, you change your address with the state of Maryland, and it hasn't been your primary residence, they will most likely charge you the withholding tax. However, Ms. Lisa has all the tools to provide the comptroller's information to see if a homeowner, a seller, qualifies for an exemption or a partial exemption. And we've had some success with those exemptions, even if they're a partial exemption. I mean, they only give them a 20%, versus the whole 100%. Every little bit helps.
It really does, because that number is huge, and sometimes it can make or break what the
Mhm.
deal could have been
Mhm.
if they are getting charged this additional money on top of what they already knew they were allocated to pay. But sometimes I see people say, "Oh, I'm just moving. I'll sell the house later," and not realize that this could be coming down the road, and you in a couple months you could have saved yourself a ton of money. So
We're proud of ourselves in Maryland.
I know, right? But
we are.
I get it a lot from my investors. My
Mhm.
investors that don't live here, they may live in Virginia or something. As they sell off their investment properties, they get hit with that. And of course, an investor is trying to get every dollar on the dollar to really make their write off worth
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
And that can be a game changer for a lot of people. Let's talk about title insurance.
Title insurance. I love title insurance. There's no other policy in the world that protects you like title insurance. Title insurance, there is an owner's title insurance policy. There's actually two owner's title insurance policies. There's the basic title insurance and the enhanced title insurance. There's also a lender's title insurance policy. When you purchase a home, most of us have to obtain a mortgage from a lender to buy the property. I know I don't have $250,000 sitting in my bank. So the bank wants you to secure their interest in the property. They're allowing you to borrow $250,000, a million, whatever your sales price may be. They want to make sure that if anything comes up from the history of the property, that their interest is protected. Meaning a tax lien, maybe Mrs. Jones isn't really Mrs. Jones and it's Mr.'s mistress, or maybe mom and daughter have the same names.
Mhm.
And, the only thing, the difference is the birth date. There's a million and one different items that title insurance protects you, owner's title insurance protects you. But my point is that the lenders require that you buy the lender's title insurance policy because they're investing in your home, giving you that money. You have the optional, and I say optional because it is optional, but honestly, I wouldn't purchase a home without it,
Mm-hmm.
because there is no other protection, nothing else that's going to ensure that you own your home. So if something comes up in, 5 years down the road, maybe a tax lien wasn't properly indexed at the county land records. I mean, you guys remember at COVID, the courts were shut down.
They were shut
Things
down
were
for a
not
while.
right.
Mm-hmm.
It was shut down for weeks, months.
Yes.
And that could, someone could file a judgment or maybe not properly record the judgment. And then that is figured out a few years later after everything catches up. And then that lien gets recorded against the property. Well, you as a homeowner have the right to purchase title insurance at the time that you buy your home. And if you don't purchase title insurance, that lien from your seller, or maybe even a seller before that, is your responsibility as the new homeowner.
Yeah.
Because when you accept your deed, you're accepting everything that comes along with that
Yeah.
property, including anything that may be from the past.
Yeah.
And title insurance insures you, it insures your heirs and your estate. If anything happens to you, it automatically transfers to your estate and then to your heirs. It never has to be renewed, repaid ever. It ensures that you own your home. And the only time that it has to be paid is at closing. It's a one-time fee. All of the lenders, and I know all of your partners, definitely factor in the title insurance, and most of them include the enhanced version. And just a quick little tidbit, because everybody's counting dollars and dimes, and I understand it 100%. I
Yeah.
understand. But this is not something that I would shortchange on. I would definitely buy the enhanced policy. And they're like, oh, enhanced, that's going to be so much more. It's really not significantly a lot more. It's based off of your sales price. We are regulated by the Insurance Administration. I can't upcharge. Joe Blow Jones down the street can't upcharge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's regulated, and I would sincerely. I don't think we've had a buyer not purchase title
I've
insurance.
Never seen that.
No,
I've never seen
no. Very rarely, but I would recommend that you buy your owner's title insurance when you buy your property.
Yeah.
No other insurance protects your interest.
Well, my thing is, we've also heard we do a lot of new construction, and I know that's another. So buying title insurance, they're like, oh, nobody's going to come back, when not realizing that sometimes the new construction, the land is usually purchased from someone, maybe a family, and we don't know who will pop up down the line that says, oh, this was my family's land and you owe. Because isn't there a story of someone capitalizing on every individual home that was built because it was his family's land at some point? I was like, are you like, seriously? This is crazy. But we're in a community right now on Bryan's Road, and it was family land. It was all these woods, and the neighbors came down and told us how they used to play in the woods, and this was their thing. And it's like it came from somewhere. I mean, they had another community in PG County where it was family land. It was named. It transferred from one owner to the other, and the builder bought it, but it was still family land. So who knows who could come up out of the woodwork to claim it. So people think, oh, it was dirt before. No, someone's dirt. And we don't want that person to come back and make a claim, that says this is their land and you owe them. Because the story I read, they literally sued every homeowner, and the title insurance was the thing that saved a lot of people.
Wowzers. I have not read that, but I'm going to read that. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. It'll be good for the bedtime.
But I don't doubt that. No. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. I'm going to switch a hat real quick and put on. So go back to give you a little history lesson. Abraham Lincoln's parents lost 2 different properties in 2 different states because they didn't have the proper documentation. Honest Abe, one of the founding gentlemen, didn't have the proper documentation. That's one of the many reasons why we have title insurance, why you have it, because stuff like that can come up. Yeah. I had a situation where, I had a homeowner, because I will reach out to the buyers. I had a buyer call me and say, "Hey, Jen, my good friend," and this was a state out Midwest, they've been in their house for like 4 or 5 years, and they ended up having to move out of their house because the federal government came and took it. And I said, "What do you mean?" She was like, "They came and took it." Long story short, there was a tax lien that wasn't filed properly,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a substantial tax lien
Oh.
against this property, and the owners didn't buy title insurance, and unfortunately, they had to relocate at their expense.
Okay, so there are two things that popped into my brain. They're not on our questionnaire for the day because I was being prepared, but these things have to be addressed. Can we talk about the title people that come on your TV at 3 a.m.? We have to talk about them because my mother-in-law is like dead set on you need to make sure nobody stole your house. And I'm like, we're fine. And she's like, no. The people said that they'll come and take your house. So every time we're in closing, I'm like, can we talk about the title lock people? Because it sounds scary. It sounds super scary when you don't know, you know.
So Title Lock, I actually called them because I wanted to know. I am a licensed insurance, title insurance producer. I do, sell owner's title insurance, and I wanted to know what this was, what Title Talk or Title Lock was. And what it is that they will charge you a monthly fee to monitor your home ownership. And if something happens, they will alert you. Alert you. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They won't fight for you. They won't, um, you know, go to court for you. That's what title insurance does. If there's any question, if there anything is going on with your ownership to your property, you can always reach out to your realtor. You can always reach out to your title company or your attorney who facilitated your transaction and ask them to look.
Yeah.
You purchase your title insurance. They're not going anywhere. And heaven forbid, if they aren't here, then you can reach out to the Maryland Insurance Administration and find out who's, handling that. But most definitely, I personally and professionally do not see the value in Title Lock because they're going to monitor my home ownership and then they'll alert me, but that's all they're going to do for their $19-25 a month, and that's it.
Gotcha. Understood. Understood. So let's talk about the fact that tell us about Lakeside, the origin and what your claim to fame is. I think this is super cool. I just
So, Lakeside Title, we are 100% woman owned. I love that. I love, I think it's an awesome, it's amazing to be with this team and this family. Our headquarters is in Columbia, Maryland, but we have offices all throughout the state of Maryland, DC, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and we're licensed in West Virginia as well.
Gotcha.
If we're not able to, if I physically, because there are some times that the end of the month may get a little crazy and I might not be able to facilitate your transaction, sit down with your buyers and close. I can call a coworker and ask her to cover it for me, whether it be at my office, in a different office, or even in your office.
Exactly. Or in the house.
Or in
Don't
the
forget,
house.
we've done them in the house too.
Yes, we have.
That's been a thing.
We have. We have done them in the house, on the island in the kitchen, which that's just so sweet and cute. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
So where there's a will, there's a way. I will always find a way to close the transaction.
Yeah, that's one of the things I just think it's amazing that it's a woman-owned business. In this realm of real estate, and Jen knows I'm part of the Women's Council of Realtors, and one of the things that we as women experienced, where the Women's Council of Realtors was originated, was the fact that we as women were not given the same credence as men in this industry. So to hear a woman-owned title company is just a really cool thing to hear as a woman. And of course we can do our girl power shout later and enjoy it. But that was one of the things that I definitely wanted to speak on and highlight. Kudos to the ownership and just to see the brand and how it's built. And every time I go somewhere, I'm always riding down the street and I'm like, ooh, a Lakeside office. Ooh. And I've seen the cute one that you have in St. Mary's, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Columbia. I haven't been to all of them, but we have definitely made our way around. And as we sell property in this state, it's great to have such a great partner in Lakeside that can facilitate most of our needs wherever we may happen to be, even when the closings go horribly wrong.
And it does happen. It's not all pretty and
That-
roses, and
Ooh,
it's not all that,
it's
but
not, but we will press on. Okay. So let's talk about the importance of the partnership between lender, and we spoke on it, but the importance of the partnership between the lenders, the agents, and the title rep. How important is it that everyone does their part, to keep the ball rolling? Because I know I can call Miss Jennifer and I can say, Jennifer, do you have this? And she's like, we're not closing because I haven't heard from this person didn't do this, your person didn't, your buyer didn't call me back, your seller didn't give me this. There's so many things that need to happen that it's great that I can call her and be comfortable enough to have the conversation with you.
mm-hmm.
Like, is everything okay? Do you need my help? What do you need me to do? Because we all work together for the greater good of all of our clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's a super. And besides us eating together, we work. We work a lot, but that was one of the things that always comes to my mind, the partnerships.
It's important. I mean, it's important because there's a lot of moving parts with, buying a house, selling a property. You're scheduling home inspections and appraisers and all kinds of stuff. I just did one inspection out of, I mean, I don't know how many inspections can somebody get, a million, on a house. You've got all of this to schedule. Then you've got your buyers. It's emotional. It's your sellers. It's emotional. It's
It was emotional the other week when we closed. That was
it's a
funny.
lot.
That was a lot.
It's a lot of emotions
Mhm.
running around.
Mhm.
And sometimes they say cooler heads prevail. Sometimes, just a lot of things, it just gets exciting. And you need to be able to pick up the phone and say, Jen, I've got a buyer, that works from 8 to 3:30 and then has to go pick up their kids. Can we please sign at a certain time? Sometimes we typically try not to do it after 5
Yeah.
because if anything happens, then nobody's in the office.
Yeah.
But there are times that you'll pick up the phone, Jen, this is a special circumstance. Can we close at this time or that time or this location? Yes, not a problem. And if I can't, I will find a way. I don't like telling you no. You know that. I like to be the yes person.
She does try to help us all the time. She does. It's no fault to yourself. She always tries to make sure that we can make it happen. I mean, I've been in super weird situations where I had to close before a funeral. That
Yep.
was like at the butt crack of dawn.
Yep.
We've closed at an irate seller's property. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we can laugh about it now. We can laugh about it now. But I mean, it's just different situations, and just to be able to call someone up and really, really work together is always a plus in our business, and it just makes everything go smoothly. So when we get to closing and we have that familiarity with each other, people are like, "Oh, they're comfortable." They're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, okay. Well, I talked to the Rover." Everybody can identify
Oh,
Rover.
Rover.
So Jennifer's company has this electronic system that sends out a notification that tells you when to come to closing, where to go to closing, and it also alerts you that documents need to be signed, things need to be turned in, and it's called Rover, and it's a picture of a dog on it. So my client was like, "Hey, there's Rover." It was a dog in the lobby, and we were like, we don't think it's Rover. Like, is Rover real? Like, we have no clue at that point. But it's just one of the aspects that I enjoy in this particular business. And she is not just, a business partner, but a friend. And whenever we have any harebrained, crazy schemed idea, just like, what you want me to do? What we doing? Because last year you were the Easter Bunny.
Yes, I was.
She was.
Yes.
And children were in love with her at our annual Easter egg hunt.
I couldn't talk.
Yeah,
like I was not allowed to talk. Like, that's hard for
that
me.
would have freaked them kids.
I am not allowed to talk. I was like, what did I just sign up for? I'm not allowed to talk. And I was afraid to clear my throat. Like, the Easter Bunny doesn't make any noise, y'all. Like, I couldn't.
It really doesn't. I didn't think about that. But the baby was in love with you. That picture was perfection.
Aww.
That was the cutest picture ever.
Good.
But I want to so my last piece to you, because we're gonna stay on time. We're gonna run this thing in order, people. We're gonna keep it together. So What is the craziest closing you've ever been
Oh dear. Um, hmm. Well, I was covering a transaction for a coworker who wasn't able to go to closing. It was out of the office. It was in Virginia. And I said, okay, I will go. The buyer knew I was on my way. Nonetheless, I got to settlement. The lender got to settlement. The realtor everybody got to settlement. We're all in the settlement room and the buyer's MIA. Well, the realtor called the buyer and said, I don't want to sign today. I just drove an hour and a half and it was all agreed. And he said, I don't want to sign today. All the crazy stories, that's the one that I picked because I had just had the conversation with the gentleman. Just had the conversation. He said, I don't want to sign today. He signed the next day in a different office. We didn't sign where he wanted to.
Please.
I
Let
had
the world
one.
know we're not just crazy people. We don't make this stuff up.
A seller was arguing with the county about how much he had owed for a certain lien, and he had seen the numbers. Well, we're sitting down at the table. The buyer had signed everything. The seller was running a few minutes late. He just had a few items to sign. Typically, I don't sign the buyer first. I'll sign the seller first. Well, that seller conveniently forgot about that lien and literally got up and walked out. The realtor had to run after the seller to get him to sign the final documents so settlement could be complete. Literally ran after the seller out of my Waldorf office to get this guy to sign documents.
Because he wanted to forget about the loan.
Yep. He was mad with the county because it was something trivial, like $20-$30. It wasn't even like, it was the principal.
Gotcha.
Yep.
No, but because I've been a part of selling homes and people don't fully disclose everything that they owe. I've seen IRS liens at 200,000.
I had one, a refi. Unfortunately, this was right after COVID. A gentleman wanted to refinance his property, and we were right about to go to settlement. Well, we're required to do a bring to date. We do a title search of the home. We research the property for the last 60 years, research the dirt. And this gentleman, we have to do a bring to date right before we do a refinance to make sure that there's no other liens or mortgages, and also with a purchase. And this tax lien came up. Well, it wasn't there 3 weeks ago. It came up at the day of settlement. We had to postpone until we got a payoff for that settlement or for that tax lien. It was a federal tax lien. And it was $225,000. It is a lot of money.
And if nothing else, we learn in real estate, Uncle Sam gets his first.
Oh, you know it.
You don't duck him. Loan be damned. Yeah, evidently we're cussing on this podcast. Yeah. So that's not even important. You're going to pay the IRS. The IRS is always going to be the first and foremost in line to get their money. So you can try to sell a house all you want. You got to get that stuff straight. It took us a year to sell the house that I was working on. And she had to do a lot to clear those debts up to get rid of it. Unfortunately, her husband had no idea that she owed all this money way in advance of them getting married and purchasing the home. So surprise, we can't sell this house and we can't get a profit because you owe $125,000 in taxes that you do nothing about.
Ouch.
Could be part of the reason why they were probably divorcing, but that's none of my business. I'm just saying.
I got one right.
It was messy. It was messy. But here on Unpacking Real Estate, we've got people like the amazing Miss Jen to come in and help us better understand what title is doing. Of course, we'll have Jen back again. We got plenty more to talk about. There's way more questions we can ask. There's always something happening in this. But Miss Jennifer Jones from Lakeside Title, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It was absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Till next time.